to the public. So that being said, just ready to jump in here. 464 Foundry Street. So first up, this is a notice of intent for construction of a 20-unit residential facility with all
Do you want to call the roll?
And we do have it.
Lord, do you want to call the
as
roll?
well as.
Do you take attendance?
I can't hear anything. Hang on.
Roll call vote.
Try again.
Your attendance.
Ah, yes. Thank you. Before we start, we need to take attendance to establish a quorum. So roll call.
Easton present.
Carroll present.
Crossman present.
Caulfield's present, establishing quorum. Thank you, Jennifer. And once again, 464 Foundry, do have a DEP number, do have all the notices to the abutters. Take it away, Scott. Identify yourself for the record, and then we'll go from there.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Scott Rogers from J.K. Holmgren Engineering, and I believe with me tonight is Joe Grimaldi from Fusion Investments. Can I do the honors with the plans, or do you want to do them, Rory?
No, you can do them.
Am I able to? Yes.
Should be able to. Do you want me to bring up Joe Grimaldi as well?
Yes, please.
Yep, take it away, Scott.
So the existing site is off of Foundry Street, obviously. Used to be two existing house lots. One house remains, one was torn down several years ago. The topography of the site generally is relatively flat. Some of it is on-site, small depressions, if you will. And a large portion, the north, I guess it was southeast portion, flows towards the wetland, which is in the southeastern corner of the property. There is a BVW down there. For some reason, I can't show up all my plans here. Hold on a second. You see that one as well?
Yep.
Okay. So the bordering vegetated wetland is down located in this corner, small portion on the property. We obviously have the 50 and the 100-foot buffer zones, which encompass our property. There was an ORAD approved back in 2019. I just want to run you through some of the design reiterations that have gone through with planning and zoning board so you can get an idea of where we've been and where we are today. This first one it started out as a larger development with a commercial component to it, retail and a potential restaurant. It was 24 units, and you can see there's parking in the front, there's parking on the side and the rear. So this was our first attempt at this development, and it's been scaled back since that time. The second reiteration I'm going to show you here is another version where it was reduced down to 20 residential units. The commercial component was completely removed from that. This shows a parking area on the western side of the property and a small little leg on the essentially behind the building. So that was reiteration number 2. And then last week, I believe it was Wednesday, September 7th, this particular version was presented to the Planning and Zoning Board. So this is, again, the same 20-unit residential building with some architectural features that were improved, mostly in the front. But the parking lot was kind of redesigned, if you will. So it's one parking area on the western side, and that leg has been removed. So with those changes to the site plan, if you will, we feel like we've made some significant changes to the improved design here. As far as grading goes, the site generally will maintain existing grades. We are proposing some drainage improvements, obviously. We are proposing 2 underground infiltration basins. One would be in the northern side or the street side of the site, which is going to handle the roof runoff of the building. We have another one in the rear of the site, which will handle basically the parking lot. And then we have, in order to have some low impact development features on the site, we have a bioretention area, which is located in the northwest corner up here in the corner of the entrance by Foundry Street. So with those designs, the 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storm events are all contained on site between those 3 particular systems. We have decreased peak runoff rate.
If I could just interrupt you just for 1 second, just wanted to note for the record that Mike Spadia has joined us. So,
Gotcha.
sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. And we've also decreased the peak runoff volumes on site as well. For proposed utilities, as you know, they did some improvements to Foundry Street. We have a new sewer line. There's a sewer stub that's provided to us in about the middle of the proposed building. So that'll be an 8-inch sewer line coming into the building. We have a proposed 6-inch fire line coming in. This building will be sprinkled. And also off of that, we have a 2-inch domestic service in the front of the building as well. New gas line coming into the building, obviously for heat and for those purposes. And then new telephone electric data will be coming in off the street, off of an existing pole, which is located on Foundry Street. We have provided an erosion control plan. And, you know, we have silt sock provided around the, I would say the southern perimeter of the site up to about that rear corner there, a little bit beyond. We also have silt sacks that will be provided in the existing basins that are located on Foundry Street, and also the proposed ones as those are constructed on our property. We've shown a conservation post on the plan as well with a detail on the detail sheets. We have a stabilized construction exit, which is obviously off of Foundry Street. We've also shown some staging areas. We've shown some parking areas for construction vehicles or, trucks, vehicles, employees. Also, the construction trailer with sanitary facilities. And we've shown soil stockpile areas as well as some swales with stone check dams that lead to temporary sediment basins on site. There's 2 of those. As far as landscape development for the site goes, we have shown, basically the first thing I want to talk to you about is the existing house lot, the house that's still there, had some disturbance within the 50-foot buffer zone. You can kind of see very lightly there's a tree line here. It's probably about I would say maybe the 30-foot buffer zone. So we're going to restore the 50-foot buffer zone with some native plantings, some buffer zone enhancement plantings. So that'll be restored back to its natural condition. We're also proposing a meadow mix, which is shown more on the street side, if you will, which will give us less areas for grass and more for a little bit more natural. And also some pollination areas, which are located over here. And we've shown some signs that are going to be placed on site that'll say proposed pollination area, do not mow. We've also proposed some street trees out on Foundry Street, as well as some shade trees within the parking area to kind of help obviously shade the parking lot and provide, a little more greenery. And then we've also included some screening for the abutter. There is a condominium development known as Greenwood Village, which is on the western side. I'd say their driveway is about varies, but a little bit between 15 and 25 feet from our property line. And there is a unit down on the southern side, which is sort of off the plan, but I would say it's about maybe 70 feet from our property line. So we felt between the Greenwood Village driveway and that abutter, we should provide some screening for them as well. And then with this new plan and the new one I showed you with the rendering, we have a lot more green space than the original designs, of course. We're also providing some meandering walking trails, which will go in the green space and also into the wooded area on the street side, kind of meander back towards the back parking area. And in addition to that, we have some, I would call it a recreation area, but basically some sitting areas in the green area, as well as some potential horseshoe pits and some pickleball, not pickleball, cornhole games. Sorry about that. So with that, I wouldn't mind answering some questions if you have any for me.
Jennifer?
Yeah, there were a few comments that we gave in the staff report. Just mention that you're not done with planning board, right? You're going to give us a revised plan, or is this the revised plan?
No, the planning board only saw that one layout materials plan, so I essentially have to recreate the site plan package to include those new designs there, but you're right, yes.
Okay, and so then we would need the stormwater, the test pits in the stormwater BMPs per the handbook. So we gave you the beta estimate to witness those tests, just to keep that in mind when you're scheduling.
Yeah, can I address that if you don't mind?
Mm-hmm.
So we did have a review by Beta based on the second plan, and we did test pits on the property. I think one of the standard comments that comes back from a lot of the review engineers is to provide test pits, but we have test pits provided. The soils are decent. So I think we have that part covered, and we do owe obviously a new drainage report back to the town and to Beta as well for a second review, if you will.
So the test pits are according to the handbook with the number of test pits required per square foot?
Yeah, you're required to have one test pit per 15,000 square feet.
And how big are the infiltration areas?
I'd have to give you that number, but I'm just gonna. I'd say they're between 2,000 and 3,000 square feet, so they're relatively small.
Okay. The project is within the ACEC. Did you have a request waiver?
I apologize if I do not have a request waiver, but I can get you one of those.
Okay, that also includes the 2-to-1 restoration. It looks like you are doing some restoration. Just make sure you take a look at the numbers and make sure it meets the 2-to-1 requirement.
Will do.
And then the draft SWIP would be required before we close the public hearing. That's it for me.
Thank you. Scott, can you just clarify, so the test pits, Beta's already seen the test pits? Or were they not on site when that was done, but they've seen the results?
No, the test pits are included either within the plans or the drainage report or both. You know, as you can imagine, sometimes we do test pits way before the design's even completed. And you can see on this plan I'm showing you, like in the front, for instance, we have test pit 1, test pit 2, test pit 3. There was 3 of them that were done kind of in a row. Unfortunately, you know, the basin ended up being on test pit 1. It would have been nice if it was on 2 of them, but sometimes things shift around. So yes, Beta has seen them. And I have no problem with doing additional test pits at the time of construction if we need to. I just think that, like I said before, I think it's a standard kind of comment that comes up, and it's not always necessarily applicable.
So just from my viewpoint, Jennifer, can we just circle back with Beta and get confirmation that they're clear on the test pits?
Yes, we'll do that. It's certainly much better to do the test pit information during the public hearing process. This way, if there are any changes, they're made now and not in the field where you could potentially have to stop work and redesign a project. So everyone should be aware that this is a requirement going forward. So if test pits are required according to the stormwater handbook, then they should be done and provided at the time of review. So just keep that in mind, please. But yes, we'll double check with Beta.
Yeah, man, and if it turns out that we need them, we'll just go back to the applicant and let them know. So, I mean, we'd rather get the test pits done now than delay later on. So, as Jennifer says, so we're just trying to keep the process moving for everybody, for sure. Any other questions from the commission? Any public comment on 464 Foundry?
There's a question in the question and answer column.
Yeah, just saw that. Can someone explain that question to me? Yeah, I'll read it, but
I don't know what that means. You may have to ask him to.
so why don't we recognize Mr. Ryu and hi, Mr. Liu. You can turn on your video and your audio, and just if you could just.
I'm Leo, 460 Foundry Street, so I'd be the neighbor to the east. So I'm asking. So in this plan, I see described there's a walking trail where I know there to be trees right now. So I'm just trying to understand and thinking about where I know the property line to be between the 464 that we're discussing and my property next to it. I'm just trying to understand both. Is there a detail on what would happen with that copse of trees? And I guess, is there any consideration as far as the water table or other things relevant to whether the trees should be kept or not?
Okay, so Mr. Rogers, are we planning on taking down any trees?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so there's
Scott, if you just turn on your video, just because when ECAT records, they don't record people that aren't on video. So.
For some reason, I'm not even showing up anymore.
Okay, let's just wing it then. So
Yes,
what's the
very limited amount of trees that need to be removed. I think it would probably be less than 10. There's one good-sized tree I'm pointing to my cursor that we're going to save. But essentially, like I told you before, there's probably over here, well, there is some trees towards Foundry Street, but not a lot of trees that need to be removed. As far as the walking trail, the meandering walking trail, the intent is to have residents be able to have a trail or a walking path to be able to.
You cut out on us, Scott.
Does that answer the question?
You actually cut out on us about 20 seconds ago, so we didn't hear it. You said the residents walking trail, and then you cut out.
Yeah, so the intent behind the walking trail, provide some place for the residents to walk around, and it will be going into the woods a little bit, but the intent is to work around existing trees and not remove trees for that purpose. Basically, just to have a little bit of an area within the woods.
So within that wooded area, are there trees in that wooded area that are intended to come down? They're closest to the abutter that's making the question.
Let me go to the grading plan. You can see it, I think, better. So if you can see where my cursor is, that's where the existing tree line is, basically along here. So I'd say, 10% of the eastern side of the site is wooded. I think there's probably less than 10 trees that need to come out, because you can see my grading over here. This is all in existing grass areas, disturbed areas. This little fill area over here is outside the tree area, so that's some fill, but there's no tree removal there. So, I'm not even sure there's one tree to be removed. We'll be staking out the silt sock when we get to that point. And you guys can see the limited disturbance, but there's not a lot of, first of all, there's a lot of trees on site anyways, but the wooded area will pretty much remain intact.
Okay, so if anything, it would be and just kind of restating what you said, if anything, it might be some towards the front of the property, the Foundry Street side of it.
Yeah,
So, okay.
but not a lot of tree removal for this particular project.
Okay. And as a follow-up question, since you got me here, and you can tell me if this is not the right place to ask this, but was there consideration on some kind of fence boundary, especially at the point that you're talking about a walking path through the woods that does currently intersect with my property with no fence at this point? Is there something within the plan? And if that's more of a planning committee thing, I'm fine with that answer as well, but I would have a question, I guess that's more just myself with the other property owner. So if that makes sense to ask in a different
Yes,
capacity.
so the best I'm understanding the question is it within our consideration to require a fence for some sort of visual barrier to the property, and I'd say not likely unless there's some issue with, but even it's outside of ours. It's a planning and zoning thing from a light disturbance and stuff like that. So
Okay.
I think that's. I'm just trying to work my way through all the scenarios where we might ask for a visual barrier, and it's really has to do with protections and identification of wetland areas where I don't think that's would be the use here.
Okay, fair, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Review. Any other public comment? Okay, so Scott, so we've got our next meeting is October. Sorry, I was.
October 3rd, but the deadline would be next Monday for revised plans and any other stormwater review from Beta. So you may want to think about October 17th.
Yeah, I think October 17th sounds reasonable since we've done a lot of work at this point. It'll be basically updating all the stuff that we already have to reflect the new design, but it's relatively easy compared to the first go around. So we'll get those plans out and the new calculations to Conservation, Planning and Zoning Board and to.
Oh, real quick, is it you sure it's the 24th? My calendar says the 24th for October. But I could have a wrong one, so just thought I'd throw it out there.
Let's look at a calendar. I have 3 and 17.
Oh, yeah, I got 3 and 24. All right, no worries.
Yeah, 17. 24 would probably be a normal one, but 17 looks like for this year because we switched with the end of September holiday.
Cool.
Mike's just throwing us a curveball.
Try it. Why not? Let's get the ball going today.
Okay, so
Just one small point. Would it be possible to get pictures of the existing trees so that we have an idea of what's there now? Since there was a reference that most of them would not be cut down, we could just have a chance to see what's there.
It's a pretty thin tree line too. Like it'd be surprising. Like that trail is not really much of a trail, right? It's gonna be pretty much.
yeah, I mean, it'd be wood light, but it's not wood.
Nice. Yeah, you're not gonna be really in much of anything. It's a very small sliver.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, one of us could certainly go out and take, photos.
Yeah, well, he's so close. He abuts the Tanglewood Conservation Area right there. It's like really close to it. So like
In
to
the
even,
back, yeah.
yeah, it's just gonna be thin. That's all. No big deal. It's just thin.
Yeah, I think Al just wants to get some sense of, are there 18-inch trees out there, or there's 6-inch trees?
Yeah, I think I've kind of been playing around with it. It looks they're pretty teeny. We should get some photos, but that's pretty new growth. That hasn't been there for years.
My only recollection, I'm certainly driving by there, and I didn't go onto the property in this case because I recalled it from the ORAD 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago so I remembered what the physical layout of the property was. Scott's description of it being relatively flat with some localized depressions is pretty accurate from my standpoint. Some vegetation in the rear corner where the wetland is, and there is some vegetation. I'm really, I think calling it woods is probably a bit of an overstatement. There's some vegetation with some, there are some trees, saplings growing. There probably are a couple of trees that we would call trees, like a 12 inches or something. Even then, I can't even say that for sure without going back. I'm not happy to go by and get some photos for us so that we just have it as reference. So, would that help out? Okay. Okay, so anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to continue.
So, sorry, Al, didn't mean to cut you off.
So who wants to second it?
Carol, second.
So motion to continue to October 17th by Benson, seconded by Carol. Roll call vote, please.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Rossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Hallfeld's aye. Oh, we got a couple of things in the house here, so let me just. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're good. And okay, thank you, Scott and Joe. We'll see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So next up is 534 Washington Street, which I believe we have a continuance to October 3rd.
Yes.
Would anybody like to make a motion for continuance to October 3rd?
I'll make a motion to continue to October 3rd.
Spady, a second.
Motion to continue October 3rd, Crossman, Spady, a second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Rossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Hallfeld's aye. Next up, we have the long continued 41 to 60 Indian Cove Way. This is a notice of intent for replace a septic system for a condominium complex. We have Josh White here. Josh,
Hey guys, can you hear me?
absolutely.
Perfect. All right, so I'll just share my screen real quick so you can see the revised plans.
So Josh, I'm only going to suggest to you, brevity is your friend tonight, my friend.
Oh yes, definitely.
As brief as possible.
Sure. So basically, we work with the Board of Health to size the system correctly. We wanted to over-design it to a certain point. So we work with them to reduce it down. And so this plan I have up right now, which you guys can see, right?
Yep.
Okay. So just to show the comparison, this is the previous design.
Okay.
And that's the new design. So you can see it's reduced quite a bit. And then this is just a summary breakdown. So we went from 90 chambers to 68, and we were able to push the limit of work from 66 feet away from the BVW to about 85 feet, which also cut down the amount of tree removal, which was mostly for grading. And then we added a 2-foot stone diaphragm at the edge of the parking lot, and we added the wetland markers, and we were able to shrink down the tank sizes per the Board of Health comments. So that's pretty much it for this one.
That's a retaining wall?
No, it's a stone diaphragm. It's for drainage just
I
off
see.
the parking lot.
I get it. No, I get it. Yep, that's
Yep,
underneath. I got it.
Yep.
Jennifer?
Just one question. The paving for the parking lot isn't going beyond the existing parking lot, correct?
No, we're keeping the same limit, and then just the stone diaphragm off the edge. That's the only additional that would be. It's just gravel.
Hey,
Any questions from the commission? Any public comment for 41 to 60 Indian Cove Way? Okay, so seeing none, Josh, I assume you want to close?
Yes, please.
Motion to close 41 to 60 Indian Cove Way.
Carol, second.
Roll call?
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. So that was Caulfield's, Carol's second to close. Motion to issue a permit for work and order conditions for 41 to 60 Indian Cove Way.
Need a second.
Caulfield, Speedy, a second. Roll call?
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Okay. Next up is 45 to 63 Village Street. This is, again, a notice of intent for a septic system upgrade on a
So
sort.
I'll kind of do the same thing as the last one. This is the original.
Give the plans for us, Josh.
Yeah, let's stop sharing for whatever reason. Here we go. Here we go. So this is the original, and then we shrunk it down.
Okay.
And then similar to the last one, we went from 78 chambers to 66. We got some additional space from the BVW, went from 50.3 to 55. I added the markers to the plan and reduced the tank sizes as well. So
Okay. Jennifer,
I didn't have any questions on the revised plans.
any questions from the commission? Any questions from the public for 45 to 63 Village Street? Seeing none, I assume you want to close, Josh?
yes, please.
Motion to close 45 to 63 Village Street.
Carol, second.
Second. You got it.
Caulfield's with Carol second. Roll call, please.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. And any further discussion? Seeing none, make a motion to issue a permit for work and order conditions for 45 to 63 Village Street.
Spady, second.
Caulfield, Speedy, a second. Roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Thank you, Josh.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. So next up is 560 Foundry Street. This is a continued hearing on notice intent for roadways, stream crossings, pathways, stormwater controls, landscaping, grading, utility mitigation areas to support. It says 46 here. Is it 44 now?
Yeah, it might be 44. That description would have been from the original filing.
Right. Okay, Mike, I have you up. I don't know who else you want up. I'll let you decide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure who else joined us, but I think we're going to have Rick Lincoln and Megan Dutra, and possibly Rick's attorney as well. He might join later. Is Megan there?
Megan is there. Damien's here too.
Okay.
You want him to bring the whole game?
Megan's fine right now, thank you. And Rick?
There's Rick and there's Megan, so.
Okay.
So I think that, I think the first, we could just start off and say, ask if you have any additional information we need to consider for the project. I think we were pretty well tight on most things. And, but I will give you the opportunity to, you have additional information you want to present to the commission.
Okay, there were a couple questions that came up as part of the draft order of conditions. The first one, and Jennifer asked that we address this tonight with the commission, is the proximity of some of the units to the floodplain. And so Megan has done some calculations on that, and let me pull up her email and I will tell you what the numbers are. So there are 4 units near the Beaverbrook floodplain. Unit 1 is 5.8 feet away. Unit 2 is 8.2 feet away. Unit 3 is 5.2 feet away. And Unit 4 is 15.6 feet away.
Mike, does that include the decks?
Megan, you can jump in.
That doesn't include the decks. That's from basically the foundation.
Okay.
And how wide are the decks? We were trying to get at what's the structure, not the house unit. So how wide are the decks?
The decks, I believe, are 10 feet. I could be wrong. But the decks aren't always directly off those measurements either. Sometimes they're offset from that because parts of the building are closer, kind of with the orientation of the building. Sometimes the decks are kind of set into where the closest part of the building is to the floodplain, if that makes sense.
No part of the deck post or pier is in the floodplain.
I think for one of the buildings, part of the post is in the floodplain.
Okay, you understand that would require flood construction for the entire unit if you have one portion of it in the floodplain.
I believe the decks are elevated above the ground level, so we're not expecting there to be really impact from the floodplain to the decks. We can always shorten the deck in that situation if we need to.
Do we know which unit that is?
Can pull that up.
Should be unit 2. At least I thought it was 2.
So that would be unit 2 here, which is right on the edge of the floodplain.
So for the other units, the decks are not in the floodplain. That one, it is.
Correct. No, they're about 5 feet away. Maybe 2 lawnmower widths.
Okay. Is there a way to reconfigure this so it's not in there?
I do believe it's, I'd have to double check, it's further out than it is there. Even if the deck shortened by a foot, it would already be outside of it. So it is basically just barely.
And is it the deck or the post that holds the deck up that's in the floodplain, Megan?
It would be the post. The deck is elevated, so the actual deck level, I believe, should be would be above the elevation of the floodplain, essentially.
So I guess what I would say is the pier at the corner of the deck, or is there a support header that's supporting the deck with it cantilevered over the edge.
I don't know if Rick has the decks fully designed out. I would assume that there is post here.
Hi, this is Rick. Can I speak?
Sure, Rick. Just identify yourself for the record. So
Normally, the posts are inset a little bit. You know, if we wanted to on that one, I could cantilever the deck. You know, I could probably cantilever the deck even up to 1.5 feet, you know, so you just pull the post back and frame appropriately. So I'd say it's probably in maybe 1 foot, but I could probably pull it in another foot pretty easily if I had to.
okay.
Another option would be to just shorten the driveway 1 foot, you know, which would also work, but we can take a closer look at that one.
Okay. We'll probably condition something like that. So
Okay.
we just don't want to get into an issue later on when we're trying to construct this thing. You know what I mean? So get everything out on the table right now. Anything else, Mike?
There were 2 other requests in the orders. One was to show easements to the different detention basins. So Megan has put together an easement plan that I haven't submitted yet. We just did that this afternoon. So I have an easement plan that shows that we can access across the backs of the lots to get to all of the detention basins. So there's an access easement to all the detention basins.
Great.
And then the third thing was, I think it was on one of the original plans, but we've made it more clear. We're putting conservation posts in the corners of each of the lots that are within the buffer zones. Obviously, some of them have retaining walls, and so that acts as the physical barrier to go any further. The ones that don't are going to have conservation posts put in the corners of each of the lots. Lots are pretty small, so we'll have a post in each corner at the rear of each lot. And that's in lieu of any kind of fencing along the backs of those lots.
So that's what you're proposing. So
Correct.
we'll have I think that's going to be an issue for us to discuss when we go to condition this.
Okay.
And I think I'm fully aware of what your preference is. I think from a commission standpoint, it is not, in fact, it's fairly standard for us when we're working right up against a buffer zone or a no disturb zone that we look for a more substantial visual barrier, depending on the situation. The issue comes into it that, you know, people just tend to sort of, well, that's just more, you know, vegetation, let me cut it down. So we want to avoid that issue. So
Okay.
That's where that comes from. Okay, anything else, Mike?
There were, there were a number of comments that we made on the draft order that went back. I don't know how you want to handle that, Mr. Chairman, if you want to go through the draft again or, hear from Jennifer as to what her thoughts are on some of the comments that we made on the draft orders.
So from my perspective, this is how I expect to sort of proceed here is that I think we've got your comments and I've seen them and it was distributed to the entire commission.
Yeah.
And we've had the chance to review them versus the proposed conditions. And so I think that once we close the hearing, we'll go into deliberations and I think we'll probably spend a fair bit of time on determining on the conditions which way we need to go on the various ones that are up in our discussion. And certainly, I don't know that I've necessarily gone through conditions like I've gone through a plan. So if there's something specific, I think you've made the point about the conservation posts and in the floodplain, which was another issue for us just to sort of understand what to do with those 4 units that were now in the floodplain, the newly constructed floodplain. So not the units themselves, but the properties, the lots.
Okay.
So I think that that's my intention. I think there's probably only, 8 or 10 things for us to review. If not, I mean, it may not, we may even sort of breeze through some of it. I think there was one about invasive species that we'll settle here. I mean, I think it'll actually, I'm going to propose something that, to make it a lot easier on everybody on that particular one, but, so that's my intention.
Okay. Okay. A lot of it had to do with timing. So that's where a lot of where we came from is timing and the order that, construction is going to occur and when we can do stabilization and what's happening at different times out there. That's where a lot of our comments derive from.
Right. So even in those particular cases, though, I mean, our responsibility is, to the entire project and impact on the wetlands.
Mm-hmm.
If there's construction conditions that we put into place, it's because they're meant to protect the wetlands. And I don't think we can. There's some of the things where stabilization and whatnot that we're asking for as we sort of move along here. I don't know that from a wetlands perspective in such a sensitive area, ACEC, right up against the wetlands, that it's not really entirely unreasonable for us to expect some stabilization that goes on during the construction period if certain areas are being left, left where we're not working on them. So we're just trying to make sure that we're not getting erosion and sedimentation happening. So.
Okay.
We'll address it.
Okay.
Jennifer, anything?
I didn't have anything to add.
Okay. Any comments from the commission? So I think from my perspective, if we have further questions for Mr. Toohill, Mr. Lincoln, their staff, we should ask them now. So if we need information, we will likely close the hearing, which means that we won't be getting any additional information into this. And normally we go straight from close to issuing a permit. But in this case, we've got a 15-page, 17-page order of conditions that we've spent a significant amount of time on. We've all had it for several days. And hopefully we've all had a chance to review and we can go through that. I know there were a couple things about barriers, invasive species. Mike's talking about certain issues about timing related to some of the construction and whether or not we're requiring stabilization in certain areas if they're left unattended for 14 days or more. Those are sort of standard construction details. So I just want to give you guys the idea of what's going to happen here. So we'll probably spend the next 20, 30 minutes, however long it takes us to get through conditions so that we can issue a permit or make a vote on a permit and an order of conditions. And I just want the order of conditions to be what we all expect it to be.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, can I just make one quick comment?
Absolutely, Mr. Lincoln.
Yeah, this is Rick. And I know I don't want to belabor anything because I know everybody's spent an awful lot of time on this, but the only condition that I would ask that you might reconsider is that number 18, where everybody wants all of the replication done, before I sell a unit. And I really can't get to that replication area on the north side. I don't know which one that is, up by Foundry Street, because that's right where the bridge is going over, which the bridge probably won't even get installed until probably next, late spring, probably summer, to aim for a low flow condition. So that's what I was hoping I could just do. In fact, I've already ordered all the plantings and everything for the big replication area, further south. And then daylighting the stream right away, that's not an issue, but I can't get to that other one. So that's really it.
I have to say the draft condition came from the plan sheet with the construction sequence, but if the commission wanted to amend that or edit that condition a little bit, you could say that all of the daylighting, floodplain, and wetland replication that has to do with the Mulberry Meadow Brook side of the property be done before occupancy. You can certainly do that. And then anything on the west side, the wetland replication and the stream crossing would need to be done before occupancy on the west side.
And that's where the turtle habitat is as well, on the west side.
But it came straight off the construction sequence sheet as we discussed. So if you were planning to change that, then you do need to revise that sheet, please.
So noted. I appreciate the input, Mr. Lincoln. So,
Thank you.
Any comment from the commission before we go to public comment and then perhaps close the hearing? Okay, so seeing none from the commission, any public comment on 560 Foundry Street? So seeing none, Mike, I assume you want us to close?
Yes, please.
I'm waiting for that one for a long time.
We're all happy about that, Mike.
I make a motion to close the hearing for 560 Foundry Street.
I'll second.
Call Carol, second. Motion to close. Roll call vote, please.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Frostman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Callfield's aye. So the hearing is now closed. So what I'd like to do is I think that if we can go through this and in some way, so I want to work off of Jennifer's draft, and I've made notations where there are issues I want to talk about and ask questions, and you know, I compared it directly to Mr. Toohill's comments, so anything that he built in there, I don't want to go through every one of Mr. Toohill's comments. I want us to sort of go through the conditions, and if we want to incorporate some of the changes, we certainly can. I think that Jennifer has tried to highlight where some of those changes were proposed and whether or not they were accepted or otherwise. So I don't know, I can go through, say, 1 through 10 and say, do we want to make any changes on these or any questions? And then I'll go through 11 through 20. And then we can go through that it's sort of like going through the budget at town meeting. So, anybody have any questions on 1 through 10? Okay, that's good because that's mostly just information. 11 through 20. Anybody have any questions? So I have a question on maybe 19 and 20. 20 was the one that Mr. Lincoln just referred to as 18. Just on Jennifer's version, it's 20. So I think on 19 and 20, I'd like to talk about it. Anybody have any other questions they want to talk about? So let's talk about 19. So 19, this is all what has to be done prior to.
I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right one. Can we share that so we're all looking at it, or is that too is that to muck it up?
I can do it. Hang on just 1 second.
Because I thought it was 18, what he was talking about 18, but I don't want to be looking at the wrong conditions.
Give me 1 sec. I assume you can see that now?
Cannot.
You.
How about now?
Yes.
Looks like it's on its way up. There you go.
Okay, so 19 is here. It says prior to commencement of activities in the site project. So I guess the question that I have here is that under F, it talks about provide consulting fees for the town's engineer, LSP, and wetland consultant. I was always under the impression that there wasn't going to be an LSP on our side, that we would rely upon their LSP. Am I?
Okay, that can be removed.
I'm asking the commission, so, but yes. Anybody?
That was my understanding as well, Roy.
Okay, so I think we strike LSP from 19F is what I'm proposing. Anybody have any problems with that? Okay, so I think that under 20, I think that I can accept the staging of the restorations, that in order to have the east side, any occupancy happen, all the restoration needs to be done over there, and then anything on the west side, they'd have to have all the restoration done on there before they start doing it. Because I understand they're going to do it in stages, and he's not going to do the restoration up on the restoration around the crossing. Then I can understand that might get delayed. Does anybody have any problem doing that?
No,
Seems reasonable.
Jennifer, is that enough information for you to craft that? Thank you. Okay, so next up is 21 through 30. I think that 21C is something for us to discuss. I think that probably 22, I have some questions about.
Roy, could you just scroll down on your screen?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going through my notes, but yeah. So 20, what was I saying? 20, so 21C is the installation of visual barriers. That's that conversation that we need to have, right? And I think that 22 is more I just have some questions about observation about the contaminated areas. And this is talking about a little bit broader than that. And so I just want to make sure we have a conversation about that. 27 is,
That's where we're going to change.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 26, all right.
We scroll down some more.
Yeah, hang on a second. I'm trying to do my paperwork, and here's 27.
Got it. You got it.
27, 28, 29, 30. So anybody have any questions? I want to talk about 27, 22, and 21, 21C specifically. So let's just start with, anybody have anything else?
No.
Okay, so 21C is the visual barriers. This is what we're talking about, a post and rail fence. And there was some discussion. So let's just have the conversation as a group here. Do we believe that there are some areas on the property that we would prefer post and rail fences as opposed to our standard conservation posts with the medallion?
Yes, I think so.
So I have one yes, I have one not quite sure.
No, I agree. I think we should have post rail fencing. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, I'm okay with the post and rail fence, particularly seeing what happened over at Barron with the persistent cutting. I do tend to think that it's a lot.
Agreed. It's tough.
So if we can talk about if there are areas where we believe there should be post and rail fences, okay, then we can step on to the where is that? Right? Is it just units 1 through 4 which are in the floodplain, or is it somewhere else too as well? Right? So I think that that's the consideration here. So if we're in agreement that there may be locations, let's just at least say we want to consider the possibility that we use a post and rail fence in certain locations on the property. Then we can go and say, okay, there's 44 lots. Which lots do we think they belong on? Okay, so I think that might be the best way to have this conversation.
Yes.
I think
I'm good with part 1.
Okay, so I think we're all in agreement that there's probably a good discussion to have about a proper placement of which lots to have the visual barriers, the post and rail fence. And then we can have a conversation about which lots it is. Does that make sense, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I will bring up a different sheet here. Let me have this in mind. Give me 1 second. I have actually found the documental one. Okay, let me stop on this one. Let me start again. I don't know what I have open now.
You have the map open.
Yeah, I don't think it's where I wanted it, so hang on a second. I just can't control it there well enough. Okay, so these are units 1 through 4. This is the floodplain. You can see this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, we saw this from Megan earlier. This is the same one, just with a yellow indication of where that floodplain is. You can see that the lot lines go into the floodplain. So that's one issue. So on this map, these units are over here. Okay, just to give you orientation. So this is the east side, right? Here's the entrance across from Pequannocket, and this is the east side. This is where the crossing will be built over to the west side. And the next sheet will show us the west side. But on this side, you have this wetland here, the BVW here. You also have the stream down on the bottom portion of the property here, where they're going to daylight this stream. Okay, so you have I'll give you my perspective. If we take it from the sense that when I looked at this, I said, do I have places where I would be concerned if someone started to extend their yard into the vegetation, right? Beyond the lot lines. Because what's being proposed is put conservation posts on the corners of the lot lines. The corner of the lots, these are relatively square lots, so you'd be right there in the corner, right? So my concern was here on these particular lots where I have this first dashed line is the no disturb zone, right? So this line here, and I guess I could highlight it if I want, but I hope you can see it, is the no disturb zone. And so from this particular standpoint, we have impacted by units 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So it's potentially using that as a standard. But I tried to establish a standard here that where I could sort of make that determination of the no disturb. There's so much work in the buffer zones here that I think it's hard for me to use that as the standard, as opposed to let me get something that this is supposed to be the no disturb zone, right? So we're already, if we vote to approve this, we approve work in the no disturb zone. I think my proposal would be I don't want it to go any further than what I've approved. And so that's what I'm trying to establish, not just a couple of posts that, you know, somebody could ignore, but, or even remove, but a post and rail fence. Okay? So from my standpoint on this side, I've got 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Me down here, I think that these are riverfront lines, and this is the 100-foot riverfront. This is a 200-foot riverfront, and I don't think there's a BVW impact here. So I actually didn't propose anything down on 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 from my perspective. Now I don't know how you guys looked at this. Whether you have a different opinion.
I would just make one note that is where replication area B is, and that might be within the 50 feet of the new replicated wetland.
Okay.
Might be.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I guess when I looked at this, I sort of mapped it out with a pen on the computer, and, you know, I do agree with Jennifer. She commented that, you know, you kind of, if you break it up too much and visually, you know, it looks strange. So I tend to agree with you that 1, 2, 3, 4, 2019, you know, if you kind of keep everything keep the, you know, the post and rail fencing as a unit, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because half of that really isn't doesn't look like they would be motivated to move too far beyond their property line on the back. But, you know, I think for sure in those other ones, you know, judging by the size of the lots, it would be some creep if you didn't have a you know, robust visual barrier.
So Nate's proposing to include it on 5, 6, 7, 8.
Well, no, I would agree. I think I originally did, but I think now, after, you know, bouncing some ideas off Jennifer and hearing you, I would be okay with what you just proposed.
Okay.
To keeping those fence, they would be like a unit, you know, 2019, 18, 17. That's like a fencing unit, keeping that up, you know, and then, because you wouldn't want half and half. I don't think it would look, you know, I don't think that would be amenable to the, you know, builders. I think keeping them as a fencing units and protecting the floodplain in that wetland area there, the disturbance zone, makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Anybody else?
That's
I
why,
agree with the sentiment.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is not a huge concern in defense.
Okay.
I just don't want dogs getting in there. I think that's the best way to go. Fence will just stop that.
So the next set, this is the west side. Here's the crossing, and then here's some potential vernal pools on both sides of the property, the bordering vegetated wetlands, and some isolated wetlands as well. The one thing that I do want to sort of point out here is that there's a retaining wall here, okay, along the backside of this property. And my thought process is that the retaining wall is already providing that barrier. And so while I believe it might be helpful to the landowner to have a fence there to stop people from going off the retaining wall, from a wetlands perspective, it may not be something I think while it's in the no disturb zone, the barrier is already the retaining wall.
Agreed.
And I'll just mention it's very easy to dump things off the top of a retaining wall, and we've seen that on other properties. But up to you.
And that could happen with snow, right? That could be an issue.
What's the height of the wall, please?
I think Jennifer told me.
Oh, that was one of the other plans. I don't have it with me because I couldn't go to the office today. I think it varies between 2 and 6 or 8 feet.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but I think if you're in like 28, you're in 28's backyard, you know, I kind of agree with Jennifer. You know, what's stopping you from just, hey, look, I have like an 8-foot wall. I mean, just, I don't know if it would even stop. I don't know if a fence post, but then again, I don't know if I'm just thinking as a homeowner, I don't know if a fence post would stop you from throwing something over it. I think the wall might be enough because I don't know if post and rail fence would prevent you from throwing whatever you had in mind, grass clippings or, down tree branches, I guess. It might just go over the wall no matter what.
Can we modify our no disturb zone signs? I assume we can.
I mean, we've got to go to the printer and have them redone. It might make the message a little confusing, but what did you want them to say?
Don't dump stuff here.
Yeah, right.
No dumping in front of them.
I mean, if you're rolling your wheelbarrow or you're pushing your lawnmower, if there's a fence in the way, you're not likely to pick it all up and heave it over the fence. But if there's nothing there, then it's very easy to just kick it over the edge. We can certainly make different signs if you like.
Okay, so does anybody else have any? I mean, I have some suggestions here, but I'd like to hear other opinions before I chime. So,
I'm of the same mind as I was. I think I initially looked at this as you need it here and not there, but I feel like keeping a fencing unit intact is more visually appealing. So, wherever we think the greatest impact, like 29, 28, 27, perhaps the wall is enough. But wherever we're going to keep, I think one section, we should try to, keep it all intact just so it serves dual purposes. It protects the sensitive areas, but is also, sort of aesthetically, falls in line with what they're trying to do.
Make a bet on how many Christmas trees we find over the wall.
Right, but I don't know if that's, unless you're going to build like one of the Jurassic Park walls, it might end up in there anyway.
Not only that, but think about people cleaning up their dog scat and throwing that over the wall because it's much more convenient than putting it in your trash can. It's not ideal.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't act like it's not, because you're going to go back and see Coke bottles and stuff that fly from people's houses they couldn't get. They're not.
I know, but it's like, is this a referendum on human behavior? Or what? It's just like I agree with you. I'm with you, but.
Anybody else on suggestions of what to do on this side over here? So Nate, are you proposing to propose it for 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31 or not?
I would say not. I mean, I feel like I feel like the wall, would serve the purpose, of. No, there's some other places I think you'd need it, heading more towards like the western side. So I would say no. But.
Anybody else?
I'm still on the fence.
We need the fence. You don't want to make it easy to put things over. Why? I mean, yeah, they can throw it over the fence, but at least give them deterrence. It's something.
So I don't disagree. I guess I just don't. I'm not totally convinced a post and beam fence with a retaining wall does a lot more than very visual signs.
Well, I mean, it helps them kicking stuff, like heavier things over, rocks, things they end up finding in their yard. But who knows, right? It's, we're not paying for it, so if you can put it there and it can be that it has some type of protection for whatever it may be, then hell, why not? Why leave it for chance?
True.
I mean, if anything was to happen, what if the guy's lawnmower this is crazy, right? The lawnmower falls off the thing, and now there's gas and oil into the wetland. Now we got to get this guy's lawnmower out of it. I mean, that could happen. I mean, this is not saying it couldn't. It's crazy, but at least there's something there to prevent for whatever issue. It's done. The fence stops things, sort of.
Having not seen one of these up, are they still marked? They're still wetland signs.
The wetland flags?
No, like our typical wetland marker sign. Would those still be in place If there's a post and beam fence there?
On the fence, just so it explains what. I'll say I made the recommendation because I've found in my experience that it does help keep people out of trouble.
Okay.
So I think that go ahead, Al. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but could it be a covenant to the future property owners that they're responsible for seeing that there's no, let's say, anything thrown into the wetland area? They're the ones that are really going to have to do it. Theirs and their contractors.
So there is an association with this, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, but it kind of already is, right? Like that's our wetland rules. Right. We could put that, but
The flag is enough, right? The marker
but
sheet.
you can't go throw your trash in a wetland as it stands. And it would certainly be the association of the individual homeowner's responsibility if we caught them. But I think that if we caught them part is always the challenge. The enforcement part is
but the
always
homeowners
challenging.
association is somewhat self-policing too.
True.
I mean, you'd have to have a collective approach that you're going to ignore the covenant, but I don't think that usually happens in an HOA.
Yeah, there may be enough people that would want to adhere to that they could force the non-adherers in line.
I don't know how closely they read those things at closing.
The issue.
I'm on team fence over here now.
The issue, I think, is though that it only takes one or two to be close in a homeowners association. So
true.
I'm just going to note that the distance from the wetland to the wall is the same or less than the length of the house. So it's a lot closer than it might look on the plan.
yeah, no, I think it's probably somewhere. If I had to guess, somewhere around 25 or 30, maybe 35 feet. So
Let's do the fence.
Yeah, you guys make compelling arguments for a fence.
okay, so we're suggesting it on 27 through 31. On the other side of the road, I mean, I think you're in a vernal pool buffer zone with 38, 39, and then 40. You're in the isolated vegetative wetland, but so I mean, 38, 39, 40. If you take with the continuity issue, and 41 and 42. If you take my buffer zone issue, 50, the no disturb zone issue, 29 in so 29 is still in the vernal pool buffer. I mean, I'm sorry, 43. 29 is a lot number. That's why I get screwed up here. 43 and 44. So are we suggesting all of those as well?
Yes.
Yes.
So do we have anything on the south side of this where we're talking about 37, 36, 35, 34, 33, or 32?
Shouldn't there be a fence along the bottom of 37, 36, maybe even into 35? Is that a vernal pool?
No, it's an
Right
isolated,
south of 36 and 37?
it's an isolated vegetated wetland.
Okay, sorry.
No.
So you'd be within the buffer zone of that.
There is a fence line there in 37 and 36, unless I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, this was on this map. It's up for us to sort of figure out what we want. So
I think 37, 36 need one. Then we're kind of breaking our own continuity rule here.
yeah, this is one of these things where I'm really just trying to be cognizant of being fair to the applicant as well as the wetlands. But
There's a
understand
lot of wetlands.
Understand well, and we've been pretty, and I will say this: the applicant has listened to us very carefully, especially on the western side here, about what our concerns were about the wetlands. And I think you saw some of the original designs on this had many more units and many more units on the west side. And, we really pushed back pretty hard on this, especially given the wildlife habitat, that I think that they have listened to us. It isn't like they've pushed the envelope. They've really worked with us. I think at one point there was even a discussion about that isolated vegetation wetland between 40 and 41, that they rearranged some of the housing to avoid doing anything with that wetland there. So, I think they've gone into some buffer zones. I think they've done a good job of doing what they needed to do to make the project feasible for them, and at the same time listening to what our concerns were. So I'm trying to do the same on our side, but I also want to protect the wetlands, and I know that's my primary responsibility. And so I think if I can do my best to protect the wetlands and make the project feasible for the applicant, then it may, So we may propose 36 and 37, and the applicant may say, listen, I'm already putting it all over the place over here. I might as well just put it, across 32, 33, 34, and 35. That'll be up to him, though. As far as the conditions are concerned, we may, we may suggest only. I say only. We may suggest a number of things here. So the question here is so as far as the post and rail fence is concerned, do we want to only have it across the back part of the properties, at the side part of the properties, at the end of these sort of groupings of homes? I mean, that's another thing here. So, it's part of it, like if you take between 41 and 40, there's that IVW, I think there's a yellow line there, which suggests that, it's being proposed that we put a post and rail fence all the way around that curve.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think we would there at least need it down to the street across 40 and 41. And now that I'm thinking out loud, I think doing it across the sidewalk there makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if that's our, like you said, if our job is to protect the wetland, then if it's not there, it's not protected. It's not, it's easy to see on a map, because we colored it all green, but it's harder to, when you're a homeowner, and it's harder to discern in real life when, things have dried out or grown over. So I think our only protection is that post and rail fence to delineate.
Okay, so what's on the table here? Let's just go back. So we were talking about 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Are we talking about running the post and rail fence along this area here to keep them out of the wetlands? Probably, right? Because we don't want people.
Agreed.
And also 1, 2, 3, and 4. So on 1, 2, 3, and 4, are we proposing to just have the fence at the floodplain line, or are we? Because that gives them about a 10-foot backyard.
Wouldn't you just do it at the property?
You didn't design the backyards. If they're going to put it right up against the floodplain, I think the fence needs to go right on the floodplain.
So do we have any discretion to put it on the back part of the property line?
You need to grant a waiver for that kind of activity in the floodplain. It might be restoring the floodplain to the elevation, but are they proposing grass? It looks like they're proposing grass. That's not really restoring the floodplain.
So can you give me some more information about this from the sense of, what our obligations are here and what we can do from a waiver standpoint?
I think their waiver, they requested to alter the floodplain where the houses are going, and then replicate that, and then that is their proposed boundary for the floodplain. That's where they're saying water is supposed to flow up to the edge of that floodplain. So that's right up to the back doors of all of those homes.
So I'm just, I think that the way I envision, I don't think that a post and rail fence is going to disturb the floodplain. I guess that's even, you, go ahead.
No, I guess I misunderstood your question. So putting the floodplain at the fence at the edge of the floodplain, I would not call that the disturbance because you're going to be just on the.
No, I think what's being considered here.
Property line.
Using the property line as opposed to the floodplain limit.
Yeah.
Okay, and how do people know not to fill in that area? Or not to dump leaves and things in that area? Or put any concrete pads or sheds or structures in that area?
I go back to this. Is there a homeowners association for this?
Well, there's a homeowners association, but I think each individual homeowner will maintain their own lot. The homeowners association.
I agree. I agree, but a homeowners association can have. We could. As Al proposed, putting something in the covenants for the homeowners association that restricts. We could say you're restricted from putting anything in the backyards of units 1, 2, 3, and 4. We could put that in the covenants for the homeowners association, or for all the units that you have to get permission of the homeowners association to make any changes to the part of the property, including sheds or patios or any other outdoor appurtenances.
Okay.
That can't be lawn, can it? Right, like the flood zone can't be converted to someone's lawn.
Not if you're calling that your floodplain restoration, not in my.
So then I think putting the fence in the back sort of tacitly demarcates the end of the lawn.
Well,
Since I'm new to Easton, have you had any other homeowners associations come before you that you haven't had this kind of issue with?
Homeowners associations can dictate like what kind of steps you can put in. I don't know why they couldn't dictate what could happen in the backyard, but that's a real pickle,
So those are, yeah. I agree. Those are all things that people have to read, and that's kind of the point of the visual barrier with the signs. It's very obvious. They don't have to go back to their deed to figure out if they're allowed to do something or not.
I personally don't have. I don't think there's any question about we putting fencing on the back of 1, 2, 3, and 4. The question is, do we put fences at the floodplain line or at the lot line? And whether or not that they convert grass between the floodplain line and the fence is what I think we're discussing. And somebody brought up some issues about what about putting a concrete pad out there for something, or converting it to lawn or anything. If the builder only puts lawn up to the floodplain line, like I think everybody says, I think eventually they're going to say, oh well, why didn't they do it all the way back to the fence? I'm going to get my mower out and take care of it, and plant some grass seed. So I'm saying that's all possible. I think we're trying to have a conversation of the backyards of these properties and what it means to not have a backyard. So it wouldn't be the first home that I ever saw in Easton that didn't have a backyard. There's plenty of them that are right up against wetlands, and they don't have any backyard. So which way does the commission want to go? Just on the floodplain line and let the chips fall where they may?
I would say
to do that
property line.
in that instance.
So we got one property line, one floodplain line,
Floodplain line.
2 floodplains.
I'm still on the fence here, guys. I'm sorry. I think I'm on property line.
So I think that my preference is property line, but I need to understand if there's anything we can do to I guess here's the problem I have. If we go property line, we are accepting the fact that they're going to convert it to lawn.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those that are going property line, me leaning that way, we have to accept the fact that we understand that they're converting it to lawn, and I'm having a little bit of trouble with that. And I think I'm having trouble because I always try and balance the homeowners, landowners' rights with rights to use the property with wetland protection, and so I'm trying to balance this, and it's one of those cases where I don't think I'm doing a great job of it. And so
That's not your fault, though. You didn't design that.
Yeah.
I know, but that's the plan I have in front of me.
There was, not a lot of thought in that particular spot.
One thing to think about is if there's children, in those houses 1 to 4, we're, without any kind of property to play on, those lots are really restricted for that.
That was going to come to my point. It was like, well, you choose your property you want to buy. This is going to be clear cut. You're going to know what your backyard looks like. So some people may not be an issue. Maybe some people might not care outside. Plenty of those. So that might appease to someone. Hey, great! I don't know my backyard. This is fantastic. So just think of it that way too. It could work for somebody, isn't it? I mean,
The floodplain is not a buffer zone. That is a resource area.
Right.
Just to keep in mind.
Good point.
Yeah, I think I've switched to team floodplain line.
I want to go to floodplain too, then I don't want to be the only one on property.
It's not an easy decision for you.
No, this is
But those will come back to you. They will come back to you as an issue.
okay. So just as a conclusion here, so on the east side, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the floodplain line. Okay. On the west side, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 36 through 44.
Right.
Including the area between 40 and 41.
Yep.
I should have gone to the second page. So here, this area here, this, and
along the sidewalk, right?
Yep, this, yep, including this line along the roadway, yep. Okay, so I think we have that.
Okay, then one last question. In the other areas that are at the limit of work, do you want the post with the marker too, or no? I mean, I think I put little X's there as a proposal. You guys, I just need to know so I write the condition correctly.
So, so the areas where we don't have the post and rail fence?
Correct.
yes.
I'd say that anything that's in a buffer zone, yes, they need them.
Sometimes you specify 20 feet in between, or is that what you like?
I think at the corners of the lot lines is, I mean, I think that's sufficient myself, but.
Yeah, I agree. Those lots are small enough. That's like almost there.
I guess I'm looking more at the outside edge of the basins
Oh,
more than the lots, because I think we covered the lots. It's more like, there's turtle nesting area. They're going to be maintaining the side slopes of the basin. You just want to make sure the management.
So we're talking here, I mean, I'd say every 25 feet.
Okay.
Okay, Let me bring up we'll go back to my other document here. Okay, so,
That was 21C.
it was 21C, thank you.
Yep.
21C, 20, I had a question about 22. So are we requesting that they have a licensed site professional to already be, to observe all the digging, or is it just where?
It's only where they showed us on the new plan, where they would be digging
The daylighting of
below ground in the contaminated area. That's a plan they already prepared for us.
right, okay, so that was my question. I said this is the only known contaminated areas that we're talking.
Yep, but I can reference the plan if that makes it clearer for you.
That would be good.
Sure.
In C, it says, witness the construction of the stormwater BMPs. So are those in the contaminated areas, or are we asking them to be on site during?
That's the standard condition. So planning board would be looking at that as well. We wouldn't be duplicating, we would just be tacking on to make sure that the elevations are correct and that the bottom of the basin is aerated correctly. Just making sure the stormwater, the whole stormwater system is done correctly during construction. That's a standard condition of the planning board as well.
Okay. 27, can you so it says stream daylighting.
This is the one we're gonna change so that it's east side, west side.
Okay, the other thing is another one that has to get changed, that one too, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so we're down to 31 through 40. So this was just to sort of talk about a couple of the things that to make sure that we talk about them. So on 33, I have a question, and I think it probably sort of runs into some of these other ones, but so maybe we could just, anybody have any other questions about 31 through 40?
Can you scroll down to that? Thank you.
So I think the big issue here is 33. That's where it sort of starts.
Yep, so these conditions are based on the construction general permit. So these are all already included in their stormwater prevention plan. That if they are not working in a specific area for more than 14 days, it is required to be stabilized. That's a Army Corps of Engineers requirement. We just include it in the order to make sure it's consistent. Yeah, so just to sort of give, I'm just giving the applicants, if you haven't had a chance. So I mean, they're requesting that only if there's signs of erosion, okay, into a resource area, not signs of erosion, but erosion into a resource area. And I think that I'd rather go with the standard criteria here. And part of this is that, I think their concern is that they're staging this and they may leave an area for a couple of months and come back to it. They don't want to stabilize it in the interim. But I don't think that's prudent. Anybody have a difference of opinion and want to make it so that they don't have to stabilize it unless there's erosion? That's what they're requesting. Leave as is? I got a bunch of head nods for the record.
Yes, as is.
Okay. So we're up to 41. Now I'll try and scroll this time. 41 through through 50. And I think that 44 is 44 is, I mean, yeah, 44 is something we should talk about because I raised an issue earlier today. But anybody have any other questions? So 44 is just saying that they should cap both ends of the bypass culvert so that it closes it off on both ends. The question that I had was that should we do some sort of wildlife inspection to make sure there's nobody using the RCP as habitat?
I don't know what would be in there. I guess you could.
That's actually the conversation that we had. We weren't quite sure what would be in there.
I don't know what would be in there. I mean,
Take a look.
I'd go out there if I had a suspect, it'd be maybe a fisher cat or like a really weird. But it seemed like just cold and damp would be able to sustain a nice habitat. So,
So is there any request here to change this to include a wildlife inspection?
they can get out if it's capped. Still, correct? Yeah.
What's the form of capping? Is it rebar spaced or is it solid?
I don't remember that, but I think it was solid.
Yeah, I would assume it's solid because they want to prevent the bypass of the stream.
I mean, I suspect if there are any wildlife
You cap it around.
using it, that there would be sign
Yes.
at either end of it. You know, you would get there, you would see scat, you would see tracks, you would see some sort of sign. But you can add to that and just say the applicant will make sure there's no wildlife using it before capping.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with saying hello, right? Little knock.
Yeah, I think as long as we're not trying to increase the level of difficulty here.
Won't there be a lot of construction going on at the time? Do you think they'll be like hanging out when there's like bulldozers and stuff driving around? If I was a fisher cat, I'd probably find somewhere else to live.
You'd be surprised.
Yes.
I think doing a visual inspection for wildlife in the RCP should get added. So.
I'm not going in. Is that something we would do?
Send me in.
Not it.
No, I'm in.
Mike's in.
Hey, I'm in. I'm all about it.
Okay, so we're up to 51 through 60. So I think we solved 56, but we should keep this in here. Sorry, I'll scroll down.
Yeah, whatever we talked about for floodplain, I can adjust all of this out. I mean, you can do it now, but.
So the only other thing that I would suggest is that potentially allowing them to change Unit 2 to some other configuration that makes it easier for them to put that.
Well, I just think Unit 2 is the smallest type of construction, and so it would only be moving closer to the road, shifting the whole thing up, or shortening the deck. But I think it says they need to figure that out. That's all. And then whatever plan change it would be, they would give you a revised plan.
Yeah, we're open to that. I just want to be very clear. So, okay, so we're going to go 61. Does anybody have anything else through 60? So 61 through 70. Anybody have anything?
Oh, I'm sorry, just one thing. 59 was about the box culvert, and Mark Manganello had just suggested adding the time of year restriction. So the standard condition would just be that the box culvert be installed during a dry condition, which is or a time of extreme low flow. That's usually between July and August. And then also give them an option that if they need to do it at a different time of year, that they come back to us with the appropriate
fair enough
construction sequence that they might need.
Fair enough. We're up to 61 through 70. Anything?
Can you scroll down below 63?
Sure. Just for you. Okay, 71 through 80.
So 72 just has to be adjusted for the markers as we discussed. And then 74 was the invasive species.
Yeah, 74, I'm actually going to propose that we remove this. Because we never talked about invasive. This is one of our sort of standard conditions, but I think because of you know, how much buffer zone and everything else out there, I think we want to, you know, they can do whatever they want in the limit of work, which they're already doing, you know? So I don't think we need to give them any permission to do anything with invasive species. So I think just there's ways to craft this, and, you know, we could sit here and spend 10 minutes talking about it. I think it's easier just to remove it, to be honest. So, because they're going to be out there doing everything within the limit of work already. So I think the only way I would craft this would be to sort of be responsible for invasive species within the limit of work. But they're already doing all that already. So my proposal is to remove it. Anybody have a problem with that?
No. Good.
No problem here.
Okay. And so through 80, through 78.
Ongoing conditions, I'll have to check those again to make sure the numbers line up because some have been added and removed.
Right. So I think this is another place where the citation is wonky.
Thank you.
79B. Sorry for the technical term. Oh, wonky?
Lucky term.
81 through the rest of it here. So Jennifer's going to fix 81F. She's going to fix the numbering on 82, or the lettering on 82. So do we need anything more about monitoring the box culvert? I mean, we talked about, I'm fine with this here, so.
You may want to just back up to 87, 88. Those were the conditions that LEC had suggested that we add. And I know there was some question about the language. You could put, I mean, Mark had specifically discussed a lawn area behind 578 Foundry, I think, as a potential area if needed. You could also define 87 a little more and have them come up with a plan as a requirement for you to review instead of trying to craft it on our own. And I don't know how closely you want to define the substantive adverse impacts. I mean, if there's 20% less, fewer egg masses in the vernal pool, is that a substantial impact? Is this something you would rather condition that they come up with a plan for that and you guys approve it? Or do you want to just say, nope, this is what's happening? This was a tricky one because we didn't get the language from our consultant. So we're struggling with that a little bit. I don't think it's terrible the way it's written, but you may want a little more adjusting there. Do I need to back up with the LEC's proposal? Review had said that there will be wildlife impacts, and they are doing a lot to mitigate those impacts. But if for some reason during or after construction you find out that the vernal pools are impacted much more than what Conoco had anticipated, then you want some sort of mechanism to say, well, you got to do just a little bit more. That was their suggestion, and that's the origin of those two conditions.
So I think that we, I think we should probably say something here, and if I'm going to say substantive, to me that means something more than 20%. I don't know if that's 33% or 50%. I don't know. I mean, to me, the first thought process I had was 50, but that also seems like, well, that's a lot, and it's probably something short of 50.
Yeah, if you only have 20 egg masses and 10 are gone, that might be a lot for the population.
You know, I understand that's part of my challenge here. So, I mean, I propose 33%, but that's, you know.
Yeah, I was shooting 40. That's kind of how I was sitting on this for a little bit. I felt the same way as you were. I mean, it's like and what Jen just said. I mean, if it's only 20 eggs and the 10, okay, that's not so good. But again, there's got to be impact, and we can't sit here and disagree. I mean, I've been back there a ton. I've seen it. There's a lot out there. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, no, but we understand the impact in certain areas, and then, you know, we have to sit here and say, you know, is it? We've been through the conversation many, many times, and I think that we think that the overall impact is negligible. So on certain areas there'll be ups and downs, and you know, it equates out over the course of the entire property. That's how we've sort of tried to evaluate it. I think, at least that's how my assessment of it has been. I mean, I'm okay something short of 50%. You know, it doesn't matter to me if it's 33 or 40.
I think 40 stays the low end, right? Kind of gets you there.
33.
40 seems like a lot.
Does it? Okay.
Jen doesn't like my 33.
Oh, really? What do you think? What is like a general recommendation in terms of something like that?
You know, I haven't seen that come up that often. LUC had recommended 20%.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're not shooting too low, that's the goal, like, right?
Yeah, I don't want this to trigger on a bad year. You know what I mean? And
right.
That's my concern.
Yep.
30%.
You have environmental factors that are changing quickly too, so may not be all positive.
It's true.
Very true.
But I heard a 30, heard a 25. Okay, so let's propose 30.
I agree.
I think everybody's equally unhappy at 30.
I'll say, not good.
Spread the pain.
You see me running out of there with frogs. Just don't mind me. Just
Put them in that culvert that's going to be kept up. That's be safe.
Okay, so anything else on the conditions? Jennifer, do you think we've answered all the questions that need to get answered?
I think so. I mean, it'll go through a little bit of tweaking after we've polished it up before we issue it, but I would anticipate issuing this in a day or two.
Great. Okay, so any other deliberation we want to make here, or are we good to go to a vote on this? So seeing none amongst us, so let me just do a couple of things here. Noting that the commission believes that the applicant has met waiver requirements for 503.13 vernal pools, 503.15 rivers, creeks, 503.16 inland banks, 503.17 vegetated wetlands, 503.18 land underwater, 503.19 land subject to flooding. I'm just going to stop my share here. Oh, it's already stopped. 503.20 buffer zones, 503.21, and also waiver. Those are the performance standards. Also waivers for ACEC in the same areas. And just want to include that in the decision that we have concluded that they have met the waiver requirement. And so make a motion to issue a permit for work and order of conditions as discussed here this evening as amended. And that's it. That's my motion.
Second.
Second.
Caulfield's with the motion, Crossman with the second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Caulfield's aye. 5-0.
That was my whole commission term.
That was nice. I mean, it was nice talking out those conditions. That was nice back and forth. Some good banter. Good talking through things.
You know, I appreciate people being engaged and and getting through those topics because these are things we need to decide together. There isn't one person that can do so. I don't think that it just wouldn't have been comfortable to try and just say, okay, let's go. I think we just spent the last hour doing this, and I think it was well worth our time because this is an important project and one we know is in an area that we need to be protective of, and I think we've done our job here. So, okay, we're actually not done yet.
We're close.
So next up is 423 Turnpike Street. The certificate of compliance for an upgrade to a septic system. Any questions from anybody?
I think you may have skipped one.
I did.
Request to extend an existing permit.
Oh, I must have a different version. I have that afterwards. But
Oh, okay. Then go with what you have. 423. So do a full.
423 Turnpike Street. I think I'm going with what was published on the website. So,
Okay.
423 Turnpike Street. This certificate of compliance. We don't have anybody here from Collins. Anybody have any questions? Any public comment? 423 Turnpike Street. Seeing none. Jennifer, we're okay, right? Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 423 Turnpike Street.
Carol, second.
Carol, second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Caulfield's aye. 121 Pine Street. This is the Eastondale cottages development over on Pine Street. So I think we got all the documents on the O&M plans and everything else we needed there.
You do. You're ready for a full certificate.
Anybody have any comments? Any public comment? 121 Pine Street. Seeing none, make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 121 Pine Street.
Carol, second.
Caulfield's Carol, second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Next up is a request to extend an existing permit. This is for 11 Elderberry Drive. This was a notice of intent for work associated with replacing an existing septic system. I believe it expires sometime in January, correct?
Correct. January 2023. This was a septic system for 3 houses on the pond, and there is a request for a 2-year extension. Just note that this property is not the primary residence. This is property where renters are.
So one thing I think I want to bring up the applicant on this, just because I know amongst our regulations we implemented. I'll wait till she comes up so she can hear this. So the applicant is here. So I think that one of the things we need to consider here and get some information from the applicant is that there's a requirement that we instituted a few years ago that in order to qualify for an extension, you had to show a diligent pursuit of the project. So in order to do that, I just want to understand if the applicant can give me some description of how they were diligently pursuing this project.
Hi, is this calling me?
It is, yes. So if you just identify yourself.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, good evening. I'm Sushan Chen. This is the first time that I actually attending this kind of meeting and also dealing with issues. And so actually, as you can see from the record, the permit was we inherited from the purchasing, and when we put the offer, that was February 2020, and the original plan was that the seller has to complete the septic program, like upgrade. And since the pandemic then hit in March, and so that obviously the seller could not complete then, and we waited until June and to be closed because of we thought that the pandemic will be over soon. So it didn't off. So, and since there are four families living there, and for the 2020, we didn't get the project done. I have asked for quotes from 4 different companies that on list from the town of Easton, and one like Boise Construction, Azaka Excavation Inc., Dean Construction, and Hurley Services. So we got the proposal quote was about between 65K to 79K. So, but because of the pandemic, we couldn't get those processed, and the tenants even don't want to be bothered and for the process. So this year the pandemic was over. Since then we started to call these companies, and every company said they were very busy, and then the price is going to increase 40 to 60%. And we, because of that, and we worked on other contract, the Hershey, and I called, and he showed up on the property, but by the end, he even didn't give a quote. He said he's too busy for this year. So, so that's why we want to first of all, the significant increase of the cost, which we were not anticipated, and we want to try to make up of this with the extension, and of course the shortage of the contracts, and also a lot of disturbance with the tenants. Yeah, I wonder if this can be considered, and basically 2 years, but maybe only 18 months, because this kind of work, as far as I learned, they say can only be done from May to October. That's what they told me. So it's very limited time during the year as well.
I mean, I'll just note that we've had a number of septic systems approved in the past year since I've been here, and almost all of them have gone to pre-construction meeting and started construction in that time frame.
Yeah, so I think that I can imagine that there were some potential challenges here when COVID first started to sort of wrap our heads around how we were going to get these things done. But a lot of these projects, in fact, I don't know that we've actually seen a decrease in the number of septic projects that have gone through in the last couple of years. I think that, so from my perspective, I think that there's probably some hesitation to give another 2 years to do this. I'm not quite sure why we would need 2 years to do this at this point. I think that it's going to be imperative upon you to get that contract signed and get on the person's schedule. And I'd say that some of these guys are probably scheduled out 3 or 4 months, but you should be able to get on someone's schedule to get this done. As far as the tenants are concerned, depending on how it's done, they may see no interruption into what's going on in the property. So, depending on the construction schedule and whatnot. So, it's got to get done, right? I mean, it was part of your condition to close on the property, and Board of Health is waiting for you as well. So, any opinions from the rest of the board here?
No, I agree. I think an extension is appropriate because I'd like to see this done, but I would be thinking more in terms of like 6 months than 2 years.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I honestly don't see the extension being necessary at all. You also spoke about price and with inflation and being a little more costly. And that's just what it is. And you could have scheduled it and you had the time frame to do it. So we can't just extend it because of that. That's not fair. It's gonna.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I really don't have any experiences. I need to digest. I never in my residence history has to deal with the septic issues, and also this including the wet. So we are in the learning process. So that's what ended up. Yeah.
So I think that at this point, I think that maybe putting a little bit shorter time frame on the extension might 6 months gives you probably close to 10 months to get it done. If we're talking 6 months from January. Yeah. So I think that gives you close to 10 months to get it done. I think if you can't get it done in those 10 months, if you come back to us and you've got a contract signed and then somebody's scheduled for next October or something, that's something different as opposed to coming back to us in 6 months and saying I'm still trying to figure out what to do, and it's a different story than the one that we just heard. So
okay. I really appreciate. I'm actually working on this because I'm calling different people. I'm not from the areas. Also, yeah. I will try my best.
So does the commission? I think Ben proposed a 6 month extension. Mike's a little bit on the fence there. It sounds to me that he's not in favor of an extension. I think I could live with a 6 month, and if it isn't done at that point, there has to be something more substantially being done than what was been done in the last 3 years. That's just my thought process here. Anybody else? I see Al nodding.
6 months seems okay. She has to also state her address.
The septic has failed. Is it leaking above ground, or is it a health hazard at the present state?
I don't believe it's a failed system. Is it a failed system, Jennifer?
I don't think they had anything imminent in the Board of Health office, but it technically failed system for the closing. That's why it has to be replaced.
So it failed Title V.
Correct.
So then it's a 2 year Title V rule. Got it.
Correct. And that's their permit expires January 2023 as well.
So even though we grant this extension, the Board of Health may not.
They're gonna have to go to Board of Health even if they get the extension from us.
Right.
That's Board of Health's issue at that point. So I say we get them 6 months, and then it should be enough time to get it done. We've seen plenty of septic get done in a shorter period of time, and you just gotta talk to the right contractor. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If I can get a recommendation of the right contract, that would be great.
You've got them on your list. But those are the people for sure. Those are the names we see out there. To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a motion to extend permit, 1588, DEP number 1521618, 6 month.
Carol, second.
Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Rossman, aye.
Speedy, aye.
All aye.
Thank you.
May I have the address?
Thank you very much.
Speaker? Mr. Chairman,
Thank
she didn't
you.
give her address.
Ms. Chen, can you just give us your address so that we have it for the record? Just need your address.
My mailing address is 32 Grantland Road, Wellesley, MA 02481.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Clean up. Okay, so next up is enforcement at 5559 Quanticut. So I don't know if everybody saw the message Jennifer sent probably somewhere 4 or 5 o'clock today. She received from the landowner, where he offered a gift instead of replication and mitigation.
You'd want to check with a lot of legal options on that. I didn't like the sound of that at all.
How much?
I'm not quite sure I have to check with any legal on this, Hal. I think we're good, but I did want to put it out there to the commission to say, whether or not that was something we wanted to consider.
Well, out of curiosity, did he give a number?
No.
No, he didn't. I saw that and I was like, I had to know. Like, well, how much? Like, yeah.
Doesn't seem like something we do.
No.
I don't think the precedent is appropriate. So.
Yeah, the law is clear. You can't alter the wetland, you need to restore it.
Yeah, there's no question. So I think that the one thing that we should be doing here is I think we should issue the enforcement order. I mean, I think we've got to issue the enforcement order and have the applicant know that that's what we want, and that we expect the area to be restored. And he needs to contract with a wetland professional to get it done. That's all. So
I agree.
Agreed.
So I make a motion to issue an enforcement order for 55 or 59 per quantity. I don't remember. 59.
55?
55
Second. Benson, second.
Benson, second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Rossman, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Caulfield's aye.
The only piece I need for that is when are you requiring, you gotta have your restoration plan to us. I don't know that October 3rd is reasonable because I don't know that he can get it done in that amount. Well,
It sounds like
that's 3 weeks away.
He's out of the country, isn't he?
So
No,
I'd
no, it's April.
say October 24th. I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, it's just,
I agree.
let's not bang our head against the wall here. It's just, we asked for October 3rd. We know we're not going to get it, so let's just get it talked about.
Okay, thanks.
I agree with you 100%, Jennifer. We should expect it on October 3rd, but we're just not going to, so let's not.
Yeah.
Well, it sounded like you didn't even have anybody retained yet, so just that process alone, I don't, yeah.
He does
Okay,
not.
so meeting minutes, anybody have any comments? Just wait for Roy. August 8th.
Royer, Al.
August 8th, I had no changes. Make a motion to accept August 8th as written.
Carol, second.
Caulfield's Carol, second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Rossman, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Caulfield's aye. August 22nd, there's just a couple of typos that I'd like to get corrected in 530, 550 Turnpike Street. Just for the record, I've sent these corrections to to Tish already to speed up this process. So is under Mr. Chesia review number 2. There's a whole phrase missing there. It's the impact on the swamp, on the overall swamp is immeasurable. It's the statement that should be under number 2. Jennifer's initials I converted to Ms. Carlino. On page 4, it's the last sentence says that we will continue the matter to September 12th for the final review, and it says issuance. I think it was intended that we were going to vote on September 12th. We hadn't concluded that we would actually be issuing the permit. I just want to change the word. 59 Pequannock, I changed samplings to saplings. The motion to recess corrected, made the motion and seconded. Under 6157 R. Randall Street, it states that I apologize for the mistake. I actually apologize for the delay in addressing the concerns. I didn't make any conclusion about what the mistake that was made involved. And one other type of servicing. So those are all Tish's. Motion to accept August 22nd with the changes I just noted.
Carol, second.
Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Goldfell's aye. Next up is chair updates. I will defer that for another evening. Community Preservation Committee updates. You actually you did have
No meeting in September.
Perfect. We're just rolling along here. So environmental planner updates.
Just Tufts Farm, did you want to host a couple hours of cleanup at the Tufts Farm for, I just threw out September 24th from 9 till noon? Is that something people can attend? I don't want to be there by myself on a Saturday, and I do have to organize things, so if that's not a good day, let's pick another.
It works for me. I actually put it on my calendar already, so.
Yep, I'll be there.
I have vacation. I'm away at that date. I'd be happy to participate another weekend.
Cancel your plans. Yeah, I think I have to referee a football game that morning, so I don't think I'll be available.
Okay. There'll be a few anyway, so that's good. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make one.
All right, so I'll post it to see if we get any other volunteers.
Got out of that one.
Again, I will be
vacation works like a job.
You can go on a Monday night.
That would be better.
Jen, I'll be probably late for that Saturday. I'll be coming from Western Mass that morning, so.
Ooh,
But I'll,
Bears.
yeah, Bears. Yeah, I got charged by one yesterday. I was stoked. Or not yesterday, Saturday. But we're getting closer.
Jennifer, did
So you got charged by a bear?
Yeah, I was bear hunting this weekend. It was awesome. It was the coolest thing.
Anything else about Tufts Farm? Do we need to talk about the bills at all?
No, that could wait for an update from our subcommittee.
Good enough. Clifford Grant trail closures.
Clifford Grant.
Just to notice that we posted the property, sent the abutter notifications with maps, put it in the town crier. It's posted at the library, went to all the schools, it's on the website, posted at all the trailheads. The trails have been blocked from our end. Just waiting for estimates for the survey and wetland delineation so we can reroute the trail.
So do we have a timeline on when we think that might happen?
I mean, it's going to be a few months because you need to get a wetland permit if you're going to propose crossing the wetland. And there's two locations where you can route the trail. They both go through wetland and floodplain. So it will be a few months.
Right. Yeah. I know Mr. Doyle, is he the?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh, is he on here?
Yeah, he is. I mean, I can, Mr. Doyle, do you want to make any comments or have any questions for us? Raise your hand or tell me we're okay. Okay. Mr. Doyle. You can turn on your video and your audio.
What's that?
Good. And if you just introduce yourself for the record again, that'd be great.
Sure, John Doyle. I live in New London, New Hampshire.
Okay.
I just wanted to. I saw it on the minutes or on the agenda. I was just listening. I don't have any comments or anything. I was just. But I didn't know how to tell you that to the chat, so I guess.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. So I think that this is going to take us a little bit of time to untangle, but our intention is to untangle this as best we possibly can. And I think as Jennifer says, we need to get out there and survey and flag the wetlands so that we can get a wetland permit pulled to reroute the trail. So.
Right. That was the one question, and I guess, and you're still going to remove all the boardwalks as well, since.
Yeah, I just think that we'll probably try and do it all at once rather than try and do it piecemeal right now, move it somewhere else, and then have to move it again. That would be. I hope that's amenable to you. So.
Right. It's just, again, if it's there, what's going to happen is people are going to use it anyways, probably, unless you've got it's really blocked.
So.
Okay.
Got it.
Good. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, we're making progress.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else with that, Jennifer?
Nope.
Okay, so Ed Commission?
We probably don't have to talk about that. It seems like we have a few more candidates already coming in. The next two things are the MEPA certificates. So that's Mass Environmental Policy Act. Those two projects have to submit for a state review from all the different agencies. I provided comments on our behalf. These are just the answers from the Secretary of Environmental Affairs. So 58 Mill is required to do an environmental impact report. So there'll be another public hearing process and a site walk. And then the Secretary will determine if it's appropriate with other state laws.
I did attend the 58 Mill Street hearing, though. So.
Oh, okay, good.
Remotely, it was easy.
I don't know, I was on vacation, so.
It was the three of us,
That is usually how MEPA tends to go. A lot of people.
It wasn't any new information, that we were getting, but it was still interesting to do.
Project. Shall we do the next one? So at the last meeting, there was a closing, so we took the application a meeting ahead, so 26 Kilsyth Road. They were looking for a certificate of compliance. I had already done the inspection and we put it on the agenda just to help with the closing that would have happened before this meeting. And you made a vote to issue the full certificate of compliance. But because it was not on the agenda, we just add it to this one so that it's good with open meeting law. So no, you don't need to take any action. It's just notification for the public that something happened at the last meeting that was not on the agenda.
So we have to vote on this, right?
Nope.
Okay. So
No action. Okay, you're done.
Anything else from anybody else? So,
Not tonight.
Thanks. I did want to, and I know we all want to run, but I do want to thank everybody for all the work that we put in to 560 Foundry. I know it's, we started this in, I know they started even earlier. The first we saw it was February 2020. So we've been putting a lot of work in this and a lot of site visits and, plan reviews and drafts of conditions and drafts of reports and reviewing reports and so this can't even be counted in dozens of hours. It's more than that. And I also want to thank all the consultants that have been involved, and including Andrea Langhauser, our former environmental planner who started this project and tried to carry it through to the end, and just we couldn't get it finished, and so we had it handed off to Jennifer and all our other consultants that would help us. So I do appreciate it, and I think at the end of the day we've got a good plan and a good project that will benefit the town at the end of the day. So I do appreciate it, and I really can't I can't wait till Mike gets out there and do the big circuit trail once we get up and running. So I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you to everybody for the effort you put in here. So that's it. I need one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Damn it.
Yeah, dude,
Steve, Carol for the second. Roll call vote.
Vince and I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Callfield's aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
That bear was chasing you. I made it so fast.
I ran quick.